So yeah, back to what I was saying with human rights. The West believes that all people have a right to life, safety, and due process. And the reasoning here is that murdering innocents is never justified. Blowing up civilians is not resistance. It's cowardice dressed as religion. No grievance justifies targeting kids, workers, or strangers. We don't do that in America. We don't do that as NATO. We don't do that as part of our value system. If there are individuals within the U.S. Army that do that, like you kill an innocent, that should be punished and taken care of. Now, accidents happen and that's terrible, but just as an ethos, we don't go around killing innocent people. Even capturing like Russian soldiers, like NATO, they capture the Russian soldiers and feed them and treat them like humans, even though they're prisoners of war. That's because we are the good guys, and people that aren't part of the West they have different values, and I would consider them not the good guys. Okay? Yeah, I mean, at some point you just got to make the statement. Okay, he believed Bin Laden and his Al-Qaeda, they believed in religious purity. Only a narrow, extremist version of Islam is acceptable to them. All others, Muslims, Jews, Christians, atheists, are enemies. In the West, we disagree with that. We believe in pluralism and tolerance. Diversity of belief, thought, and culture is welcomed. The difference here, a worldview that demands one pure religion is inherently genocidal. It erases billions of people's right to exist. That's not spiritual, it's supremacist. Bin Laden also agreed in misogyny. Women had to be veiled, silent, and subservient. He did this with his wives. He didn't really pay attention to his daughters. That's sort of a cultural thing at that time. And in the West, we don't do that. Education was discouraged also. In the West, we believe in gender equality. We believe that women and men both have equal rights to speak, lead, learn, and live freely. Now, as a culture with feminism, recently we have discovered that it's kind of too much. We gotta find. I think a lot more women are actually happier with a slightly more traditional life, meaning like they, having kids, staying at home, and then having the man go out and have a job and bring in the income. That's worked for many families, and it's kind of coming back. It was kind of like an anti thing, like you shouldn't do that, but basically you should live however you want, and it's not like religious. But if it were up to Osama bin Laden, it would be very strict. You don't get a choice. Any ideology that fears educated women is afraid of the truth. In the West, women are not a threat. They are leaders, creators, and equals. Oppressing half the population is not moral. It is cowardice. Osama bin Laden rejected modernism. He was anti-modernism. He rejects Western science, art, and culture as corrupting and evil. Whereas we in the West, we believe in scientific progress and artistic freedom. We believe knowledge, creativity, and innovation are good things, and we celebrate those. Bin Laden's worldview is stuck in the 7th century. Ours put people on the moon, cured diseases, and connected the world. This fear of progress is fear of losing control. Bin Laden, as a final point, believed in martyrdom and death cult thinking. He believed in dying in violence against the West is glorified. This is really hard to argue against, because if you are the type of person that you've grown up in that society, in a war-torn nation like Sudan, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, those types of places, prior to U.S. involvement, they just were war-torn and hard places to live. Glory might be all that you have. And so that your life is not going to be in your 80s, sitting on a porch, enjoying, sipping your lemonade and tea, and then like seeing your grandkids. And, that's just not even in the cards for them. Whereas for us in the West, that is a reasonable lifestyle that all of us would want, be happy to achieve, and look back and, no matter what you did, you're kind of happy with life, and that's a good way to live it and to end, non-violently with lots of people around you, with loved ones, right? But that's not the same over there in the Middle East. It's, death cult thinking that everyone's going to die. I might as well die in a way that glorifies the greater cause. We just don't believe that here in the West. The West believes in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We believe human life is sacred and meant to be lived freely. A philosophy that celebrates death is anti-human. Western values celebrate living fully, not dying for dogma. A final point here, I just want to make like a Gen Z rebuttal. I just want to emphasize that bin Laden was flat out wrong. 5 main points here. 1, he wanted to drag the world backward. He hated modernity. He wanted to force the world to obey literally medieval, dark ages. Those type of rules, not modern day stuff. Gen Z lives in a global, digital, expressive culture, and his dream was your nightmare. Bin Laden targeted civilians, not soldiers. He didn't fight with honor. He hijacked planes and murdered thousands of office workers, firefighters, and moms and dads. Right? That's not resistance. That's evil. Pardon me, I had to get some coffee. Number 3, bin Laden was just scared of ideas. He didn't like free speech. He didn't like feminism, music, education. All that stuff terrified him. If people thought freely, they'd reject his ideology immediately. Control through fear was all he had. His system, this is the 4th point, his system had no joy, no freedom, no future. Imagine a world with no art, no dissent, no music, no dating, no memes, no freedom of belief, just fear and punishment. That was his utopia. The final point here is Western values are not perfect. You guys all know that. But they are self-correcting. Bin Laden's ideology, he can't evolve. It was frozen. Our Western values, we can debate, reform, protest, and improve. And that is real strength. Going back to Plato, that's like our Western philosophical basis it's all about dialogue. It's all about people talking to each other. And it happened to be around Socrates, who never said he was wise, but he demonstrated wisdom over and over and over and over again. And he did it through questioning. What you do is you just honestly question what other people believe, and when they present a really good idea, that's a win for everybody. So that's the Socratic method, and that's what we do. Bin Laden had no Socrates, no Plato, no, it was just his way, and that's it. The final statement, this is like a too long didn't read, is Bin Laden's worldview was a death cult rooted in fear, oppression, and control. Ours is based on freedom, creativity, and the sacred value of every human life. So you tell me which one deserves to win. 2 extra points, and then we'll talk about timelines and invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan. But 2 points is there were bureaucratic rivalries. Prior to 2001, the FBI was somewhat aware of the Al-Qaeda attacks, and they tried to let the CIA know, but the CIA just didn't have the capacity, and they basically both failed to share vital intelligence about known terrorists. Interagency ego and secrecy played a devastating role. So we let the terrorist attack happen, even though we somewhat knew about it. We could have done better about preventing the death of Americans. And so people feel awful about that, and they tend to increase the government power, and that created the modern day surveillance state that we have now. A final point is there was a guy called John O'Neill. He had like a tragic arc. This is kind of this makes sense if you just look at one person. O'Neill was passionate, often abrasive. He was a counterterrorism figure. You can think of like Jack Bauer from 24, but that's an old show. Nobody knows that. He predicted Al Qaeda's strike, but he was ignored, sidelined, and ultimately killed on the very day of the attack.